the whole kaupapa of Music Month this year is Amplifying Aotearoa. So that means a lot of different things, but thinking a little bit about how we amplify the music and the mahi that happens here in lots of different communities and in lots of different parts of the sector for both stages and audiences here at home and then also overseas as well. And part of that is kind of getting yourself a really good grounding in the people and the spaces that are available to you, which looking around at lots of faces I recognise and lots that I don't as well, which is really awesome. There's a really important part of kind of any part of your music journey, and that's finding your crew, your people, the places you can kind of come back to. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking a wee bit about today. All of these amazing folks on the stage do a lot of mahi with specific communities and connecting people up with lots of different spaces through music. And I'm going to throw to Abby to introduce themselves.
Yo! Hi everyone, I'm Abby. I'm the kaiwhakahaere of The Stomach in Palmerston North. Yo, has anyone been to Palmerston North? Oh mate, it's probably the greatest place on earth. I grew up playing music at The Stomach. We're an all-ages music venue. We've got a recording studio and we've got rehearsal rooms. We're funded mostly by Palmerston North City Council. Shout out PNCC. Love them. Couldn't do it without them. Is that all you wanted?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Savina.
Morena. What an intro, Abby. Hard act to follow. My name is Savina Fountain. I'm the General Manager at Big Fan. We're a charitable trust in Morningside in Tamaki Makaurau. We have 3 recording studios and a live music venue under one roof. We also run a number of programs for our music community. That's us.
Lora.
Kia ora, I'm Lora. I am an audio engineer and musician. And I'm talking about one particular aspect of my mahi today, which is to the front. I'm also the new regional director for the new Kirikiriroa program. And so if you're not aware of what To the Front is, has anyone not heard of To the Front? Great. I have some of these lovely pamphlets and I might leave some around today, so feel free to pick one up. But essentially this is a music-focused program that empowers young women, trans, intersex, takatapui, queer and gender diverse youth through the power of music. It's a holiday program and we're running our first one in Kirikiriroa, Hamilton this year.
Nice. Emily.
Kia ora, I'm Emily Wheatcroft-Snape. I'm a recording mix mastering engineer, and I also have an initiative called Record Enable, which really helps to get more sort of non-male people working as audio engineers and music producers in New Zealand.
Can we have a big paki welcome for all of our wonderful panellists this morning? Awesome. So hopefully that's given you a tiny little window into some of the kind of amazing worlds that these folks connect into. But I want to start first with talking a little bit about community as an overarching idea, just to get the ball rolling a wee bit here. Why is it important, Abby, I'm going to start with you. Why do you think it's important as a music person to find a community that you can ground yourself in?
I think because everyone's looking for acceptance somewhere. And if you can't find that in your own backyard, then you've got to go out and find it somewhere else. And so to be in a place, and I think the music community, especially, I don't know, speaking from P-Nordy, Palmerston North, we just love each other, and it's really important to just take anyone in who needs that support or looking for a place of connection. It's just, it's your chosen family, I think, because who doesn't love a family who loves the same thing as you do?
Who loves to rock?
Yeah, rock and roll.
Yeah.
That's my answer, thank you.
Savina, what do you see? Because you've got a lot of young musicians who come through your space at Big Fan and a lot of people starting out in their careers as well. What's important, do you think for young folks walking into those spaces about having access to a community hub, which is, what Big Fan is, in terms of elevating their careers, both here and overseas as well? How can it help?
Well, I guess kind of echoing what Tabby said, spaces where people can come together and connect through music, that's hugely important, finding your tribe, finding your chosen family, finding your people, you know, and that's how I really got started in the music industry too, because I found my people through music from a young age. I didn't realize that could be my career one day, but it's, you know, it does wonderful things and it changes your life. So really Big Fan exists to help people find their community, and we hope to create that, you know, within our four walls, but, you know, beyond that as well. So it's about, you know, smashing through all those, you know, barriers, trying to just get as many people involved as possible. And so, I mean, we like to provide our professional gear and guidance to help support people to do, you know, what they want to do and explore through creativity, because, you know, that community really, you know, is what helps, you know, the music ecosystem to thrive. You need a place where people can come together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask you two a kind of shared question here, because I think that you've both got, you know, a lot of experience in different ways of being in front of microphones, behind mixing desks, in front of rooms full of people. But also both of the programs that you kind of facilitate and encourage look at young people who have, I guess, maybe other factors in their lives that bring them into that space too. And so, Lora, with To the Front and Kirikiriroa particularly, what is important for you about bringing a program with that kaupapa to a place like Hamilton?
Yeah, sure. So when I was looking at the notes to prep for this today, I was thinking about the word community and my experience with community. And I actually grew up in a town with only a couple of thousand people. And obviously I've lived in other areas like Tamaki included, and also Melbourne, which is the largest city in the Southern Hemisphere. So experiencing that community aspect on different levels has given me like a really important sort of outlook on community as a thing. But also I kind of specifically growing up in such a small place, and then eventually moving to Kirikiriroa, which at the time was the big city for me, the experience of feeling a little bit isolated perhaps in my immediate community, not having people like me immediately in my vicinity, like Savina was saying, to create with and to make music with. That was a experience that I think has been fairly common amongst a lot of us that are kind of on our local board, but also just people I meet through To the Front. And so that's sort of the importance of the kaupapa for me, is that we're bringing not just Kirikiriroa people to do the program, but people from around the Waikato, from the smaller places as well, and hoping that they will make connections that will then empower them to keep continuing.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk heaps about all ages spaces in a minute, because we know how important those are. But Emily, for you, there's a similar kind of story as well about how did you find yourself in the mahi that you do, and then what did that kind of lead to Record Enable as a project for you?
I kind of got into my work really just out of the passion for it, and I didn't really notice anything else. I was very sort of like single tracking and getting into it. But the way that I came through, I had, you know, uni tutors that had a lot of faith in me, and then I managed to get this like once in a lifetime internship, and always had that support system, but was very aware.
Where was that
at Roundhead Studios. And so I didn't I had a lot of privilege that a lot of people in general in my career don't have, and then thinking about it in the context of, you know, if you're in like more of a minority within the industry, like only 5% of producers are women, trying to help other people to come up and support them in that way. In terms of the Record Enable community, it's understanding that because the numbers are so small, that our community does function within the wider recording community of Auckland and of New Zealand. And so the way we function, like it can't just be that if you flourish in Record Enable, you'll be fine. Like we have to make sure that our people are able to then go out into the wider music community and still be able to flourish and have that confidence and have those skills.
So it's like it's a landing sort of port almost, and then you're helping connect people out to other spaces, which is like very shared, I think, with all of the mahi that you do. Laura, you're going to say something?
Can I just say, Emily, When I was younger, I tried to go for a similar internship to yours at York Street, and I did not get it. So you would be very
Well done,
lucky.
Emily. Yeah.
Hey, thank you.
Let's talk about all ages spaces. Who's played a gig or been to an all ages event in this room? Any hands? Yeah, a few. Nice, cool. And for you folks on stage, I mean, big fan, and the stomach, the tummy to those in the know. These are spaces that specifically exist to bring people of a diverse, broad range of ages into music community together. Why is an all ages space important, Abby? In this thesis, I will.
You know. Well, here's the thing, kids. I live in Palmerston North. And I haven't really ventured far. And last year I came to the Save Our Venues Summit, and I didn't know that like all ages venues weren't like a thing, or like all ages venues without a bar, or like, yeah. I took the Stomach for granted, okay, because I didn't know
that it's so special.
Yeah. Like to have a place where you can come or like you can drop your kids off and know that they're going to be safe and supported and like it's okay. But like people drop their kids off at their Stomach and they go, it's so clean. And I go, yeah, like we want it to be a space that's like welcoming and accessible for people. So yeah, that's my end game always for all ages venues, is that you're happy to drop your kids off there and you know they're going to be safe.
Because not everyone in this room will have been to the Stomach. Hands up if you have been to the Stomach. Yeah, few. Nice.
You should come.
If you haven't been to the Stomach, give us a little, walk through, Abby. What are we looking at when we walk in the doors?
Front doors. You come in through the front doors. Bright orange wall greets you. 2 rehearsal rooms fully stocked. You can come with nothing and make as much noise as you want. Semi-industrial area, no noise control, incredible. And then you move down, beautiful toilets, I've heard the cleanest toilets in Palmerston North. Move down a little further, a massive music venue, beautiful, all ages, couple of sofas, comfortable. Down even further, it's a long building. Recording studio. So we've got like our tracking room, we've got the control room. It's all like not state of the art, but like industry standard stuff that we can get access to at accessible rates for our community because we subsidise it because we're funded by the council. Thanks, council.
Thanks, council.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That was awesome. I'm going to get you to do the same thing for Big Fan up here, Savina. What are people seeing when they head into Morningside? Sorry to keep putting,
I know, what
this
a hard
comparison
to
on here, but
compete with.
It's okay.
Two great all-ages venues. But if people are heading to Big Fan, they haven't been in before, there's a lot of Aucklanders in this room, so hands up if you have been to Big Fan. Yeah, this makes a bit more sense. Nice. But what are people seeing and what's happening in that space?
So we're in Morningside and off Morningside Drive. So we're in a street called McDonald Street. You turn left. It's a black building. It's not orange. But when you walk in, a lot of people sort of get quite surprised about kind of like the depth and the scope of it. So at the front, we've got an all ages and licensed music venue. And we've got a green room backstage area at the back.
With a basketball
hoop. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
It keeps getting
Best
broken because people keep slam dunking on it. We didn't realise people could jump up that high, but, they can. Actually, we've got an arcade machine from York Street back there. So it's like studio royalty back there. And up the stairs, we've got 3 recording studios, a big collaborative lounge and kitchen and outdoor deck area. So it's very like family vibes. And the studios are pretty much built like they're professional grade production studios. They're well treated, soundproofed, but really they're made to look like you're in someone's lounge, and we want people to feel creative and comfortable, and through that people make good music.
Totally. That's a very neat segue. I was going to say the reason I've got you guys to sort of give us a visual for it is because I think there's something really important about having these physical spaces that people can come into, feel safe, feel looked after, and feel like they can experiment and do that creative stuff. Because we all know in this room it's quite it's quite a lot to be your creative self. You need to be in the right headspace. You need to have the right resources for it. You need to be supported, and finding spaces like this where you can go and be comfortable is really, really awesome. When we look at programs, so like what you guys are running down the other end here, tell us a wee bit about what does a week, obviously the Kirikiriroa camp is brand new for To The Front, but To The Front's been running in Tamaki Makaurau, down in Poneke, Te Papaioia has also had one as well for a few years now, and it's a pretty special week. Tell us a wee bit about what does a To The Front week look like, Lora?
Yeah, sweet. From my experience of the Tamaki one for the last 5 years or so, there's lots of instrument lessons, band time, songwriting time, performance coaching, workshops. It's pretty all immersive. There's also lunchtime performances, which are like always fun and great.
And what's the lunchtime performance? Who's playing in those?
Yeah, so that's usually established artists, but it kind of it's a mixed bag of genre. It's a mixed bag of style and everything like that. So it's really, really fun and cool, and potentially exposes the rangatahi to different genres and different things that they haven't seen or heard of before, which is really neat. They always have a good time, lots of jumping around. I just want to say as well, we have a little DIY venue in Hamilton right now. Hands up who's heard of Hamtown Smackdown? Some of the older people might have. Yeah, it's an institution, right? If you haven't, Hamilton's been the scene for all ages hardcore for about 20 years, but we have recently started to have all ages shows at a place called Mesoverse. So our camp is, our program, is going to be running our showcase there, and I encourage everyone to look into that.
One of the, just feel like I have to put a different hat on here. I also do some To The Front work. Abby also does some To The Front work. Actually, everybody on the stage has in some way or another been involved in To The Front over the last few years. It's an incredible program. If you've got rangatahi in your life, or if you're identifying in that space as well, come and say kia ora afterwards and have a chat, because it's a really, really cool thing. But it is also pretty incredible. People get put in bands with each other that they've never met before, sometimes playing instruments that they've never touched before. By the end of the week, they've written a song, they've made a whole bunch of new friends, a whole bunch of new confidence. It's a pretty special program. What are you running at Record Enable? What kind of events, what kind of conversations are you having, Emily?
It's a bit of a mixed bag. I sort of try to sort of tackle the issue of getting sort of more women into engineering production in a bunch of different ways, because it's not a really straightforward issue. So like kind of the main event that we started was a studio skills workshop, and it comes back to like, having spaces that you feel comfortable in and can flourish in. Part of this workshop is getting people who could go into engineering or could go into producing in a big studio, but have never quite had enough practice in that space, or have never been taught specifically how to function within that space, and bringing them in for the weekend and helping them to be comfortable in those spaces, because unless you book in the time, or you have someone who books you in for that time, you don't get that studio experience in those like bigger spaces.
Totally. And I think, anybody who's ever had the chance to walk into a recording studio, it is a little bit like a Starship controller type spread.
Absolutely.
You've got, for someone who doesn't have any technical experience in that, it's an overwhelming number of like buttons, levers, faders, all sorts of things on the desk, just to actually build it right back down to basics. For people in this room who are maybe thinking, I actually don't know what being a producer or being an engineer is, could you give us a tiny little pocket example of what that is, Emily?
So it's basically a band says, I have a song and I want it to be on the radio, and you make it. So a producer is generally like in a more traditional or like kind of old school context is like the creative lead of a project, and they facilitate the creation of that project. And then your engineer in a more traditional sense is the person that records everything. And then your like mix engineer is the one that gets to the levels and makes it sound cool at the end product. But yeah, so Record Enable is trying to get more people into, especially those engineering roles. A lot of people, these days do have their computer at home and can do like a more modern sense of production, which is creative lead and engineering in one. But to sort of be in those bigger studio spaces, you do need to have more in-depth knowledge. and it's sort of helping people to get to that place.
Totally. And one thing that we haven't really explicitly talked about, except for P-Naughty Council shout-outs, but how do all of these programs get funded? Because money is a big barrier to people getting into these spaces. I know that that's a big thing for you, Emily. If you haven't gone and studied it, and study is expensive, it's awesome to do if it's what you want to do, but it is an expensive commitment. So this is like an opportunity for people to kind of get their foot into that space, maybe without that massive bill attached to it for them.
Yeah.
So how does it kind of work for Record Enable?
So with Record Enable, it's really important to me that all of the events and everything are free, and that we try to reduce those barriers as much as possible for the people attending. And then, so last year I was lucky enough to get some money from like Music Commission and that kind of thing. But it is like industry funding a lot of the time is how we get the money for that. And then some of the other parts of the initiative are privately funded as well. We provide sort of scholarships for people who are doing like university study, and we do like some gear giveaways and that kind of thing. And so, that has to be more privately funded, but otherwise it's sort of going to industry organisations like NZ On Air and Recorded Music New Zealand as well.
Yeah, totally.
Can I put my SAE hat on for a second
Get
as
your
well?
SAE hat on.
Just while there's people here, that we also have recently established a couple of scholarships, one for essentially non-male enrolments into either our music production or audio production programs. So that's really, really new, just rolled out. And then we've also got a Ngāti Whātua scholarship as well.
Cool.
Which goes, I think, at the moment just one per year, but we're really trying to, sort of work with organisations like Emily's organisation to move into that space because we acknowledge the barriers to paying for study are quite significant.
Yeah, massively. And how does To The Front Kirikiriroa work? If people are coming to that, you pay to be part of the course. There are some scholarships available too, but what's the program look like in terms of where does the funding come from? How does people sort of get involved? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. To The Front, or Girls Rock as a national organisation, receives funding on a national level as well. But in terms of the Kirikiriroa program, a lot of my mahi over the last 6 months, or our mahi as a team, has been going to local funders, places that are currently in absolute despair, like Hamilton City Council, unfortunately not as generous as Palmy by the sounds, but I think they've just had a bunch of cuts. And organisations such as Well Energy Trust, Trust Waikato, and Creative New Zealand. Our Creative New Zealand is administered through Creative Waikato. So organisations like that have really made it possible, as well as the Music Commission and some of the more national ones as well.
Savina, what's the sitch at Big Fan? How do you guys kind of function as an organisation?
Yeah, so Big Fan was founded by songwriter and producer John Little. Those of you that don't know John Little, look it up on Wikipedia. And his wife, Gemma. So we've been very lucky to have founders who truly believe in, I guess, the power of music as an art form to change people's lives. So we have a lot of philanthropic money, I guess you'd call it that. We also very generously a funding grant with Ministry for Culture and Heritage. So shout out MCH. And we have also had funding from music organisations as well, such as the New Zealand Music Commission, New Zealand On Air, APRA. We have also had City Council funding. And so, it sort of comes in all sorts. And any money that is raised from our general hire of our spaces goes directly back into it. And we will get there once we start actually making a profit. But
you guys are still new as well.
We're brand baby new. We're a year and a half old, so not quite the institution yet as the tummy is. But we're hoping to get there, obviously.
Awesome. Yeah. Tell us a wee bit more about the tummy, because it's not just P-Naughty Council.
No, I was just going to say, point of clarification. The council help us heaps. However, we have had a 3-year funding grant from MCH, Ministry of Culture and Heritage, for a community outreach coordinator. It was a 3-year contract, came out of COVID funding. However, the impact has been tremendous. We've had we've diversified our usership and increased, especially in the disability sector, huge increase. And now that ends in June. So we have to find the funding to pay for a staff member and then also funding to support the programs. I went to the council and asked, and it was terrible. I cried afterwards because it was just like so much. It's so hard to like have to defend something that the impact maybe not like the numbers aren't sensational, but the impact and the ripples it has in the community is just like out the gates, like quantitative and qualitative, you know, like. So yeah, we're looking for like more money all the time to be able to keep doing all this amazing stuff, and it's hard, man. It's really hard. And then you know, organisations, they change their funding structure, and then your pools become more competitive and things. So it's just like you're fighting all the time, treading water to be able to maintain the incredible mahi that you do. And essentially like you're a social service, you know, like supporting these users and people in like mental distress and things, getting through it. And yeah, finding funding is all my job, essentially, like should be, but there's so many other things to be doing.
It's like being a librarian a little bit, eh?
I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like you kind of end up...
They just got all their funding cut too, by the way, the libraries.
Scanning books, I don't know. I've never been in a library. I don't really know how to read.
I have a few friends who've gone through art school.
Feel for them, mate.
Done a library course, ended up being a kind of a social worker. But these spaces are important, I think. Absolutely. Is kind of what we're getting at here.
And it's why are these spaces becoming a social issue? It's like, that's what you got to flip it back on, and then you say, oh, well, heck, have some money to do more good, you know?
Tell us about that good, though, because what does it look like in Palmy? Because it's a little bit like we were talking about with Lora. You're sort of like the hub with lots of spokes coming off of it, particularly in these regional areas as well. What does that good look like, Abby?
I think, like, for me, one of the things that have happened in the past 3 years since we've had community outreach, the biggest thing for me is, like, we had a young person who was in Oranga Tamariki residential care. They weren't in school. It wasn't right for them. They came to the stomach. They found the stomach through Youth Space, which is a part of the library. They came and they loved it. And they were showing up every day. And OT were like, we'll fund them for an hour twice a week. And we hit them back. We were like, he's coming like for 4 hours, 5 days a week, writing raps and learning. He got a real close connection with our engineer and was learning how to like then produce his own beats and stuff, not just using like ones he's found on YouTube. And so it's like this young person can't be at school. Like he's not fit for school, but he's like expressing himself in ways we've never heard of before. Like the stuff he was sharing was insane. And we got him to perform on stage one night, and it was
amazing.
Just like full circle. This guy didn't think he could do anything, and now he's like performing. And that's the juicy goodness I love. Like, we got a guy who's got a physical disability, but he's found that drumming, like he can do drumming, and it's so good for him, like physically and emotionally. He recorded like a drum cover in the studio, and then he performed that in like a all ability showcase, like another full circle. You know, it's just, there's all these amazing things that have done great work for other organisations and people's lives and their whānau, and it's just like, that's the stuff, you know, that's the creme de la creme. Yeah.
I'm going to throw to you, Lora, because tell us a wee bit about some of the folks that have come through the To The Front program. I mean, as it's been running for about 8 years across the country, started here in Tamaki Makaurau, what are some kind of stories, some themes that have come out of campers who've come through?
Yeah, so as you know, I asked this in the board chat so that I didn't just represent the Tamaki camp, because that is the main one I've been involved with myself. And there seem to be quite a few stories that people come out with of, like, you know, campers who would come back for a few years once they turned, and as you know, we now have the Pathways program. Once they become adults, that they can get involved in that way and then eventually become mentors. So it just becomes this yearly ritual that they always come back. As well as that, there's artists who are in that space, such as Hiri, who's a local artist in Tamaki, the Dawns, and also, I believe, someone from Coast Arcade.
Bella's come through our Pathways program.
Yeah, there's heaps of examples of that where they've just started attending, you know, at age 12 or 13 really early on, and just kept going every year because they liked it so much. There were so many testimonials that I didn't have time to write all the names down, let's put it that way. But when we've been going for funding for Kirikiriroa, as it has been such a hard sell given the economic times and everything with how all that stuff's working right now, we have composed a document that has a lot of testimonials in it from other camps, which has been really helpful as well to show the wider impact on the community.
Even for like Te Papaioea, like a bunch of our campers have become like volunteers. One of our young people have started, like, they've become a poster girl in Wanganui, like slapping up people's posters from finding out like that you can do that, and that how important like posters are and the art is behind that. So yeah, like just even like getting them connected in other ways, like volunteering is awesome.
But also the impact I've seen actually since it's been run at SAE for about the last 5 years, I think, as being, employed by SAE and seeing the enrolments into the audio program, which I'm the manager of, we're finally seeing changes in numbers of people who have been coming to the campus every year for To the Front and are now enrolling in tertiary study that suddenly seemed available as an option to them. I mean, in 2005 or 6 when I studied audio, I was the only non-male person in my intake where I studied. And I think, those stats have been, you'd probably agree with me, pretty dismal ever since. So it's really awesome to see the change that has brought, even just having people become aware of the course and having them see that it's a career option, whether it's live or studio. Yeah.
Savina, who are you seeing come in to use, because you've got a gig venue at Big Fan, but you've also got these amazing studios upstairs. Who are you seeing coming in to use these spaces, particularly from younger artists and people starting out in their careers?
Yeah, so with that, we also run a number of initiatives for the music community. So programs for music people, music creation, but also programs for people behind the scenes, because we're all part of the same ecosystem and we all support each other to make it all happen. So one of the examples is this young woman, Maggie. She's 16. Her family moved up to Mangawhai from Tamaki, so she felt very isolated from the music scene. She took part in our writing camp called Fan Camp Rangatahi. So it was a writing camp for under 18s, which is funded by MCH. And then she took a part in this writing week, and which is they get paired up in different groupings each day, write a song from scratch, and then they do that every day for 5 days. And then her mother came to visit us the week later with a card that she had personally written and a box of chocolates that she wanted to buy for us. And it was just the sweetest thing. And she said that when her daughter got home on that last day, that she just burst into tears because she had such an amazing time, and she said she just didn't want to leave, and she wanted to come and work for us one day, and she just wanted to write music every day, and she felt really inspired. So
That's
that was
amazing.
a really sweet story.
Yeah.
And with our venue space, we run a program called Ignite, and it's for to help young people get into the behind the scenes that support the the people on the stage. So we've got streams in event management, event production, and music production. So there's one kid who took part of Ignite last year, Tag. He's in a band called Cliffs the Band. And I believe it was actually their first proper show. So he was in our event management stream. And so he organised a show with the other participant, which his band played at. They sold that show out. All the proceeds got donated to a wonderful charity called Music Helps. And then they've gone on to play other shows, but also he's gone on to organise other shows where he's got other artists to come in. And I think that's a hugely important part of what Ignite does, is to actually help support people to put on the shows, because there's a lot of initiatives to help people on the stage. And if you're anything like me, you're like a bit of a failed musician. And you're sort of finding like you love music, but you can't quite, go on stage, which was definitely me. But there's so many wonderful pathways and careers that exist in this music community. And so that's what we really try to explore. And he actually came back with his band to play at a Ignite show organised by this year's intake, and then help that person with that show. And so it's like, I really love that full circle thing that Abby's talking about, because it's all those full circle moments. And I got started by putting on all ages shows for my band and my friends' bands. And so it's like, because also it's like creating people making music, but it's also about creating music fans, the people that go to shows, because people that listen to shows, listen to music and, buy band merch, we're all part of the same thing. So we're really big on exploring all avenues that help support everyone.
Totally. And also, when we're looking at all ages spaces as well, having somewhere that as a young person is safe and accessible to come to as a fan is just as important as being a band on the stage too, because that's how you get the bug early, get them young, get them coming into shows, start that as part of a regular extracurricular activity that you do in your life, and it'll be valued for you for the rest of your life.
I think it's a hugely important part. I mean, the stomach is done wonderful things for Palmerston North. I remember as I used to tour quite a bit with bands that I'd managed and would come through the stomach and places where people can play. And it's interesting now that, I don't know if it's sort of like a post-COVID thing or just a lifestyle thing, but you ask a young person what was a show that you went to, and they name like a stadium show or a big arena show, and obviously no diss to them because we're all part of that. But without the small shows and without supporting local music, no one is going to get to go. You don't just wake up and go and play in the arena stage. Even Billie Eilish played on this stage before she sold out the arena, and now she's too probably big to come to New Zealand. But it's all really important, and it's also like people working behind the scenes. Those big stadium shows don't rig themselves or
Yeah, I was going to say without the sort of DIY punk gigs in someone's garage where you learn to set up a PA when you were 16, you're not going to get to operate arena. Like it's all a pathway, so it's really important to nurture those smaller things.
Totally. And Emily, we're thinking about these kind of jobs that might be invisible to some people as well, because like you were pointing out, Savina, when you think about a band playing on a stage, you think about the band playing on the stage. You might think about the people you see, like the lighting and the sound people in the room, but there's also all these other things that go on. There's also all these other things that go on to encourage people onto the stage and to make sure that those gigs can happen, and also that those albums can get made and those songs can get made. So what's some of the stuff that you're doing in these Record Enable programs to support people who are trying to do that behind the scenes studio mahi at the moment?
I think it's allowing people to have the time to practice and put themselves out there in those contexts. Because it is a thing where, especially in terms of recording, it's just like the most confident person in the room is the one that's going to end up on the desk, And when I was at uni, the reason that I started leading our recording sessions was because I was the only person confident enough to press a talkback button, which was a huge thing. And so it really is about helping people get to that confidence level where they can say, yes, I can do this, and really step into it. And I think for a lot of women, especially because of how the spaces are set up, they can be quite masculine spaces. And even in terms of how they look, Big Fan's great because it does just feel like your lounge, but you do kind of go into some studio spaces and it's all black and there's no cushions on the couch and everything's just a little bit janky. And it can be hard, especially if maybe even for musicians, a young 16-year-old singing a pop song, to come in and feel comfortable in that space to just express themselves as they are.
Totally. And just from live sound perspective, it's a very masculine space. As well, and I think quite often when I say I'm a sound engineer, a lot of people think I do what you do, but it's different. It's not the same.
And so in part of Record Enable is really just helping people gain the confidence in there to then be able to go on and do their thing.
Totally. With something that I think is kind of been in the underpinning of what we've been talking about today is making things that are a little bit invisible visible, or making things that seem quite intimidating or scary, just demystifying that a wee bit. What's been for yourselves as people on this kind of music pathway. What's been a moment that you can think of where someone did that for you, or where you felt you had this opportunity to do the thing that you're now doing? It's your job. You probably don't think about it too much all the time, but like, what was the moment or a moment for you that kind of made that happen in your own career? Abby, I'm going to start with you. Put you straight on the spot there, sorry.
Thank you. Well, yeah, like I might have mentioned earlier, I started at the Stomach. Like that's how I played music. The first show I ever played, Carbon Carb asked me to open for them, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like it was wild. And then the next day, I was at JB Hi-Fi flicking through CDs, and this guy came up. He goes, "You were so good last night. Like I loved that." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And he was talking to me like he knew me and all this stuff. My mum was like, "Oh my gosh, who was that?" I was like, "I don't know." Anyway, he's like my best friend now. It was Fabian, guys. It was Fabian. But it's just like to have that little like rock star moment in my own town. It was just like, oh, I want that for all young people, or even just like old people, like, just to be able to be like, wow, someone heard my music that's come from my guts, and it like and they liked it,
and it resonated in their guts too.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like a gut connection. That's mine.
Savina, what about for you?
I don't know if this is quite the right example. I guess I work more behind the scenes. My first job in the industry was I was a live sound engineer, and an amazing guy who still works today. I think he's with the Auckland City Council in events. A guy called Gavin Downey passed on the torch. So I was a live sound engineer at a venue bar called Papa Jank's, which is now cassette number 9. So it was like a rock and metal bar. So you can imagine, as a young woman, probably more than 20 years ago, giving away my age, it was a pretty scary place. And literally people would be like, "Oh, where's the sound guy? Where's the sound guy?" I'm like,
They still do.
They
still say that.
No, that's terrible. And I'm also short as well, and so I don't have a lot going. I was like, I'm right here. I'm standing right here. So he was a hugely helpful person to kind of give me that confidence. But actually, I started putting on all ages shows from when I was about 16. And it was I kept on doing that until my 20s. And there was actually a moment where I was at a show, and then I looked back, and then there was this young woman she organised it. And then there was a guy doing sound, Soranonka, who is an amazing live sound engineer, and Amy Pollard, who works as a stage manager these days. And those people actually came up from volunteering at my shows. And then I turned around and I was like, wait, me putting on these all-ages shows, it's not just an opportunity for people on stage, it's actually helping to breed this new generation of people. And that was my aha moment, and that's how Ignite was started.
Oh, amazing. That perfectly answered the question, yeah. Lora, how about for you? What was a moment like that for you?
I'm trying to think of one specific moment. I think my experience is probably unique in that I grew up in a town, Whangaroa, Raglan, which at the time had a couple of thousand people. It's probably a little bigger now. And there were no venues, and there were no bands. And it was quite tough to sort of get out there and get amongst some music stuff. And initially, a lot of the time, I was the only non-male person involved as well. I think there's probably 2 key moments for me if I wanted to talk specifically about audio. And one of those would be in my first role. It was about 20 years ago as well. I was the same age as the To The Front people, and I walked into, I was 17 I think, I walked into a local sound company in Kirikiriroa, and he said, "Yep, we can put you on reception."
No, thank you.
Within about 3 months, I think they were short on crew, and so then I was quickly on a Catch a Fire tour, and they were one of the biggest bands at the time from the area, and that was a very fast learning curve. And just having that manager of that company validate that I was doing good work was really an important boost that I had not had in my life until that point.
Yeah.
And then there's a few others that I can think of down the line as well. But yeah, that sort of key thing I think with youth is probably the main thing I wanted to mention, like empowering young people.
Totally.
Because you're at that vulnerable age where an adult can either discourage or encourage.
Yeah, amazing. Question time? Okay, we've got questions, but I do just want to quickly ask you, Emily, what was the moment for you like that?
I have 3 tiny ones, I promise.
Hit me, yeah.
One was when I was at uni and I was doing a mix and I was very nervous about it, and my uni tutor listened to my mix and said, you know, you're really good at this, eh?
Nice.
That's all you need sometimes.
Totally.
Next one was at uni, my tutor had an international friend that was coming in to record in the studio and he asked me to be the engineer.
Amazing.
That was really cool. And then when I went and did my interview at Roundhead to see if I could come on and be an intern, I had, done like a little bit of work and whatever. And then I said, I do better when I'm batting up, when I'm the worst person in the room, and then I learn to get better.
Yep.
And the engineer, Simon, said, great, well, you're going to do well here then.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
that was all I needed from all those people. Yeah.
Before we give you guys a massive clap, I do just want to see if anyone's got any questions. I reckon we've got time for 1 or 2. Yeah, down the front here. Aha. Thanks, Swilla. Just here in the second row.
Hi guys, so I work at the Future Aotearoa Trust in Aotearoa and alongside the Fig Jamming team who are doing an event tonight. Asking specifically about the centre because we're about 3 months from closing our doors. We're trying to get more creative things going in music, in backstage. It doesn't help that we're rural, but what are some things that you guys have done when you're at those crossroads and breaking points that have helped you to succeed, and how could they apply to a community centre for the arts in a small rural town?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. Abby, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I think ask for help, ask your community for help. I think even like wider community, bigger spaces like Tamaki and stuff, there are people who want help. Like for us, our young people who grew up making music, they're now young professionals and donate to us like monthly, whatever. So yeah, that's basically it. You just got to, I think, money-wise, funding-wise, put all your cards on the table and be like, we need help.
Did you say Te Aroha?
Shout outs.
Cool. Hit us up. There's a website on here, but we could look to collaborate. Obviously, this program is in its first year in Kirikiriroa, but I believe we have some applicants from your area. So,
I think just sometimes you need to be really bold in asking for help as well. You can be like, I have no business asking you to help me, but here I am. And yeah, that's sometimes you're just pushed into those positions, but it can be really, really fruitful.
And I think, get creative. I remember putting on all age shows and, losing, thousands of dollars as, a 18-year-old. But then you can actually get quite creative when you don't have money.
All of us nodding we've
As in
all
just
run a
do
few
everything.
events like that. I think we've got time for one more question. Does anyone else want to ask a question? If everyone's still feeling like they're waking up, that's also all good. Yeah, down here.
I just wanted to ask, the scene can seem quite competitive, and that can be quite a yin-yang process. Do you think it'll get to a point where we focus mainly on the craft and the skill point level and try reach new heights from there rather than expectations or... Yeah, that's my question.
Does anyone want to jump on that one?
At Big Fan, all of our programs are free and open to anyone. So we don't do any, it's not like who you know kind of thing. So we're trying to get rid of that. I think that's sort of how I feel about a lot of competitions, because music is, it's not supposed to be competitive. We're here to lift each other up. So through everything that we do, we try and make it about that. But it's a struggle also when we're, opening up these applications and asking people to apply, and we still have to choose. And that's a part that, keeps me up at night, because I don't want to discourage someone from not participating. So it really sucks. We try to, even up that playing field as much as possible, but I guess help each other, because I think finding, we talked about finding your people. It's like if you find your people to, surround yourself with, and then people that'll lift each other up.
Also, the classic answer of tall poppy is an issue. Compared to other places I've lived overseas and other music scenes I've been a part of, but it could be that whatever music you're making, you're just finding, like Savina said, your audience and community, and maybe you're searching in the wrong spot. Because as a musician myself, my career has been pretty underground and DIY. And I, for a long time, I was in your position potentially. So I can kind of understand that question as well.
I think also like craft has a massive part of like doing good work, but in terms of success, like you have to acknowledge that there is competition and that you do have to have a certain amount of strategy in terms of where you want your career to go and how you're going to get to the place that you want to be. And so, yes, it is very good to be good at what you do, but if you are not putting yourself in the right communities, or you don't have the right strategy about going about it, it can make life much harder.
And I think also, just to jump on that as well, knowing what you want from what you're making as well is really important as well. Do you want to be a superstar? Do you want to make some friends? These are all like, there's no right or wrong answer when you're doing something creative, and all of those things are awesome outcomes. So having a bit of a conversation with yourself about, okay, what am I trying to achieve and how can I get there? That's that strategic thing. Finding the right people who will sort of be the wind beneath your wings when it does get a bit sticky, that's all really important. So finding those little networks and communities that can help boost you when you're in that process is probably going to help with that. Can we have a massive paki paki for our amazing panels this morning? Thank you so much, Abby, Savina, Lora, and Emily. We're going to leave you in the capable hands of our next fantastic panel. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you all. Come and have a kōrero if any of this resonated with you after when we have a wee break for lunch. Cool.